Pitman goes baseline and throws it down. Klintman on the move. All the way in and all the way up. There we go.
Tui with the move on the baseline. The drop step from the kid is gorgeous.
It's Sarr. Oh my. Comes in and knocks down the through ball. Sarr again. Nice.
That'll wake you up.
Welcome back to The Jump, presented by Hungry Jacks. It's time to talk NBA draft, and when we want to do that, we bring in this man, Jonathan Givony, our expert. And Jonathan, the timing could not be any more perfect, because earlier this week you dropped your latest draft rankings. And by my watch, when you have a guy that is playing in the NBL at number 1 on your list, it's a perfect place to start. Alex Sarr continues to impress.
Yeah, Alex Sarr continues to get better and better month by month. He started off the year in a phenomenal way with the 2 G League Ignite games. Those were exhibitions. And, just the way that he's, contributed to this streak that Perth is on right now, having won, 9 of their last 11 games, coming off the bench, playing, alongside Keanu Pinder behind him, just bringing energy and impacting the game. He's one of the league's best shot blockers. He really plays his role well in terms of his offensive rebounding, his ability to cut, to be a roller. But John really actually gives him quite a bit of freedom here too, allowing him to take the, rebounds off the defensive glass, to initiate, to, operate out of dribble handoffs, to show his passing ability, to show his three-point shooting, to create his own shots a little bit. And all those things together combined, when you're 7'1" and you have a 7'5" wingspan and you're that type of athlete, that's going to intrigue NBA people in a major way.
And the Perth Wildcats winning of late, as you mentioned, Jonathan. So here's the question. How competitive is this race going to be for the number 1 pick? Because there is a lot of conversations right now in Australia around what do you do if you're Alex Sarr? And all this is on the line and you're a top 3 pick, potential top 1 pick. Does it benefit you to keep playing? And does he need to keep playing to hold that stock in the top 1, 2, 3 names in the draft?
I think it's going to be very competitive, and I'm not sure that we're going to really know who the number 1 pick is going to be until Adam Silver actually announces it on draft night, June 29th. And so the best thing that Alex Sarr can do is help his team win games, is to come into games and impact winning at the highest level. And I asked Alex Sarr that exact question already back in September at the NBL Blitz. I said, Alex, with the way that you're playing, are we going to see a full season out of you? We saw LaMelo Ball, only play a handful of games. RJ Hampton, a handful of games. What is your plan moving forward? And he said, I'm here to win games. I'm not going anywhere. I want to win a championship. So that's what NBA teams love about Alex Sarr, is that competitiveness and the way that he impacts winning. And just reminding people of that week after week is only going to help him, and also to help his development long term. And he's still a young kid and he's getting better. These are great tests for him to actually come into the NBA next year and be a guy that's ready to produce from day one.
And here's a question I get a lot, and I don't answer. I say go to Givony, because he is a man that you should be asking this question. Where does this draft class, in terms of where Alex Sarr sits, compared to some of the other insane athletes that we've seen with Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren right now, that are those 7-foot-plus guys that can put the ball on the floor, protect the rim, they're versatile. Are you able to compare where this draft class as a whole sits compared to previous years?
This is the most wide open draft that I've seen in my 20 years doing this. I think it's really going to be changing week by week, month by month. The impact of the draft lottery in the middle of May, once we figure out, what team has what pick and what are those teams going to be trying to do. I think on draft night itself, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, because people are talking about this 2-day draft, which means a 10-minute break between picks. It's going to be, it's going to last 2 days now. And so that's going to, enter a lot of trades into the conversation, and it's going to really affect the way that people look at it. Talking to people from all 30 NBA teams, they see things very differently. And so there could really be a guy who is, 27th on my board right now that ends up going 7th. I think it's one of those years, and it's going to be really fascinating to see how it all plays out. we have a long way to go here. It's January 3rd, and we're talking end of June. So things are going to change quite a bit here the next 6 months.
Okay, so we talk about the movement. What does that mean for Bobi Klintman, a guy that, for mine, has continued to come on the longer the season has gone? He's into double-digit scoring right now, and he just looks so casual, so calm, and so smooth out on the floor when he's got the ball in the hands at what I call the Cairns Talent Factory. Bobi Klintman, what a team seeing in him.
I think the pre-draft process is going to help Bobi Klintman a lot, because once people get him in their building and they see 6'10", a very consistent spot-up shooter who plays with energy, has athleticism on both ends of the floor. I believe he's leading the NBL in dunks right now. He's a terror getting out in the open court right here on demand. He can switch between different positions. You see him guarding point guards at times. We've seen him play center at times. That's really intriguing in today's NBA, and that's what people like about Bobi Klintman. I think what they do want to see more of is more consistency. He's had 2 24-point games here in the last 7 games, but he's also had games of 0 points, 2 points, 4 points, 6 points. So I think what we want to see here going into the second half of the season in the NBL is, can Bobi Klintman be an impact guy every single night for the Cairns Taipans?
Okay, quick one here that I didn't plan, but you just made me think about this. So how do teams look at situation? Because Bobi Klintman's playing in a Cairns Taipans team that is very young. It's got a whole bunch of guys that have just come out of college or didn't go to college. And now Alex Sarr is playing for a Perth Wildcats team that has a whole stack of veterans. Does that come into calculations when trying to evaluate role and performance?
I think it does. I mean, you have to look at the context of the situation. That's why people like me go to practices. That's why we get to know the head coach and the assistant coaches and the general manager. It's why we spend so much time trying to understand a player's history. Where did he come from? What is he going to get to 5 years from now? That's ultimately what it really comes down to. And so we're trying to evaluate all of those things at the same time. And I think it really matters to know what kind of situation a player is in. What's his style of play? What is his role within that team? What are they telling him off the court on a nightly basis and in practice as well? So I think all those things they're factors that go into the evaluation ultimately that help decide where a player gets picked.
All right, let's come to a couple of Australian players now, starting with Alex Sarr with the Sydney Kings. And he's a guy that we've really seen come into calculations the longer the season has gone. And for mine, he might have the biggest responsibility of the next stars that are in the league right now in terms of defensively what the Sydney Kings are asking him to do. How has he came up the draft boards in your view throughout NBL 24?
I think Alex Sarr has been a big surprise for a lot of people. He was projected by most, even maybe by himself, as a multi-year guy going into this year. But entering the starting lineup, being, a real player for, one of the top 3 teams in the NBL, taking on the assignment of guarding the other team's best players on many nights, finding that consistency as an outside shooter, showing his outstanding feel for the game, his ability to pass and be a connector, be a great teammate, be a guy that impacts winning in multiple ways. People like that about Alex Sarr. Being a 6'8" forward who can play different positions. As long as that outside shot is consistent, there's a role in the NBA for Alex Sarr. Is it this year? Is it next year? I think the rest of the season is going to tell us a lot about, where Alex ends up, being best suited for in terms of his draft outlook.
To college basketball, year 2 at Duke for Tyrese Proctor, and he came in with big expectations, had an early injury setback. Where is he at right now? Because he's been discussed as a potential lottery guard.
Yeah, Tyrese Proctor started off the year not great and then had an injury which kept him out for a couple of weeks. He's starting now to find his rhythm a little bit. He's going into ACC play now. That's going to be big for him. NBA teams are going to want to see a confident, consistent, aggressive Tyrese Proctor. The shot making hasn't quite been as consistent as people would have liked. He isn't really beating people off the dribble the way that people would like to see. You're seeing a lot of drops and he's being a little bit passive at times. And I think people wanted to see a little bit more out of Tyrese Proctor this year, but there's still a long season to go. He's got, a good 3 months here to really, take Duke on his back and lead them to the Final Four, because that's where their talent suggests that they should be. We have to remember this is really kind of like his freshman year, because he reclassed up. He should be a freshman right now. He was, he decided to, skip his high school senior year, and he's still making the adjustment in certain ways. There's a lot of talent at Duke, and so still the jury is still out on Tyrese Proctor to an extent this year.
So much excitement about the familiar names in this year's NBA draft class. Wealth of knowledge, Jonathan Givony. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.